Yashodanandana Vrndavana Ranjan Yamuna Tira Vanacha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradha Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari. Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajikacharya Stota Stota Shishimad Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. So Leela Mrita, we will read now. It arrives on the screen.
So, Prabhuji, is it visible from your screen?
Yes. Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, you can start reading.
Move mine.
When you are ready.
Second. One time, while he was walking on a secluded street, pursuing his back to Godhead duties, a stray. Sorry, something's blocking my screen here. There we go.
Prabhuji, a stray cow.
Yeah, a stray cow, the kind commonly seen wandering the streets of any Indian town or city, suddenly charged him, goring his side with her horn and knocking him down. At first he couldn't get up, and no one came to help him. As he lay there, he wondered why it had happened. Summer came, and the 110-degree heat made it almost intolerable to spend time out of doors. Hot, dust-laden winds blew in the city streets. Street-side hawkers closed their business during the day. In early May, during 112-degree heat, a man collapsed in the street and died of heat stroke. But Abai ignored the heat and the ordinary limitations of the body. One day, while delivering back to Godhead to various addresses in the city, Abai suddenly began reeling, half unconscious, overcome by the heat. At that very moment, an acquaintance of his, a man he had approached during his preaching, happened to be passing by in his car, and he took Abai to a doctor. The doctor diagnosed him as a victim of heart stroke and ordered him to rest. On June 20th, Abai produced the 8th consecutive fortnightly edition of the year. Its front page article condemning both materialistic family life and false renunciation of family life. It had been almost 2 years exactly since he had left his home and taken to the Vanapras order, and his comments on family life seemed autobiographical as well as scriptural. He quoted a statement by Prahlad Maharaj from Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the 4th canto, chapter 22, entitled Pritha Maharaj Meeting with the Kumars, text number 14. Bhavatsu kushala prashna atmarameshu nishyate kushala yatara nasanti mativrittaya. Bhavatsu kushala prashna atmarameshu nishyate kushala yatara nasanti mativrittaya. Bhavatsu kushala prashna atmarameshu nishyate kushala yatara nasanti mativrittaya. Will others chant?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Bhavatsu kushala prashna atma arameshu nishate kushala kushala yatra na shanti mati vrita.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I'm also trying.
No.
Bhavatsu kushalam kushala prashna atma rameshu nishyate kushala kushala yatra na shanti moti vrittayah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Bhavatshu kushala prashna atma rameshu nishate kushala kushala yatra na shanti mati vrittayah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I am also trying.
Hariva.
Bhavastu kushala prashna atma rameshu neshate kushala kushala yatra nasanti mati vrittayah. Hare Krishna.
Word for word. Bhavatsu, unto you. Kushala, good fortune. Prashna, question. Atma arameshu, one who is always engaged in spiritual bliss. Naishyate, there is no need. Kushala, good fortune. Akushala, inauspiciousness. Yatra, where. Na, never. Santi, exist. Mativirtaya, mental concoction. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Pritha Maharaj continued, my dear sirs, there is no need to ask about your good and bad fortune, because you are always absorbed in spiritual bliss. The mental concoction of the auspicious and inauspicious does not exist in you. Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela, chapter 4, text 176, it is said, Dvaite Badra Badra Gyana Sabha Mano Dharma, E Bala, E Manda, E Sabha Brahma. In this material world, the auspicious and inauspicious are simply mental concoctions, because such things exist only due to association with the material world. This is called illusion, or Atma Maya. We think ourselves created by material nature exactly as we think ourselves experiencing so many things in a dream. The spirit soul, however, is always transcendental. There's no question of becoming materially covered. This covering is simply something like a hallucination or a dream. In Bhagavad Gita, it is also said, Sangat sanjayate kama. Simply by association, we create artificial material necessities. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu pajayate. When we forget our real constitutional position and wish to enjoy the material resources, our material desires manifest and we associate with varieties of material enjoyment. As soon as the concoctions of material enjoyment are there, because of our association, we create a sort of lust or eagerness to enjoy them. And when that false enjoyment does not actually make us happy, we create another illusion known as anger. By the manifestation of anger, the illusion becomes stronger. When we are illusioned in this way, forgetfulness of our relationship with Krishna follows. And by thus losing Krishna consciousness, our real intelligence is defeated. In this way, we become entangled in this material world. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibrama, smriti vamshad buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. By material association, we lose our spiritual consciousness. Consequently, there is the question of the auspicious and inauspicious. But those who are Atma Rama or self-realized have transcended such questions. The Atma Ramas or self-realized persons, gradually making further progress in spiritual bliss, come to the platform of association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the perfection of life. In the beginning, the Kumaras were self-realized impersonalists, but gradually they became attracted to the personal pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The conclusion is that for those who are always engaged in the devotional service of the Personality of Godhead, the duality of the auspicious and inauspicious does not arise. Pritha Maharaj is therefore asking about auspiciousness, not for the sake of the Kumaras, but for his own sake. Om Jnana Timirandasya Karanjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the translation again, Pritha Maharaj continued, my dear sirs, there's no need to ask about your good and bad fortune, because you're always absorbed in spiritual bliss. The mental concoction of the auspicious and inauspicious does not exist in you. So thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to be part of this wonderful community of learned devotees. I've seen devotees give wonderful classes here. So I'll try to speak for my purification with everyone's blessings on this wonderful section of the Bhagavatam. We have heard in previous verses how Maharaj Prithu has welcomed the Kumaras to his home. He understands the significance of the presence of such saintly personalities. The Kumaras are not ordinary persons. Swayambhu, Narada, Shambhu, Kumara, Kapilo, Manu, Prahlada, Janaka, Bhishma, Bali, Vyasaki, Vayam. These 12 are the Mahajanas. The Kumaras are one of them. The Kumaras are liberated spacemen. They can travel in space just as Narada Muni does. They are mystic yogis. They are able to remain Naishtika brahmacharis in the bodies of young children for the entire duration of their life. They have their own disciplic succession by which they disseminate knowledge of the personality of Godhead. So they have so many qualifications that are not ordinary, and Prithu Maharaj understands this. So therefore, when they arrive at his door, he doesn't think they are mendicants and they need my help. I should give them a donation, and in this way I will benedict them. Rather, he thinks that they have come here to benedict me. This is the principle of all preachers. They go door to door seemingly to beg, but actually they're not really begging, they are giving. Prabhupada was in America, I believe. He gave a talk, and a student at the end had a comment to say, a question. So he told Prabhupada, why have you come here? Here people have their own religion. They don't really need you to come here. And this student was actually an Indian body person. So Srila Prabhupada, he told him, I have come here to give, but you have come here to beg. You have come here to beg education, technology, a job, but I have come here simply to give Krishna consciousness to the people. So Prithu Maharaj understands this, that they have come there to give. And so therefore he's very pleased, he worships them properly. And by his worship of them, he also understands, I will get so much benefit. Another time, Prabhupada, he arrived in Melbourne. And the reporter, he asked him, he said, we hear that after this, you're going to be taken off in a Rolls Royce. So wouldn't it be better if you were driven off in something more humble? Why are you going to drive a Rolls Royce for? So Prabhupada said, well, I don't need the Rolls Royce, I can walk. But if you give me a Rolls Royce, why wouldn't I drive in it? He said, actually, it's my favor upon you that I am accepting the Rolls Royce. I could reject it, I could just walk. But if I accept it, I am giving you my grace. You get some credit. And so Prithu Maharaj, he, understanding the significance of the Kumara's presence, he doesn't make small talk. Usually if a guest comes to your home or you meet somebody, the first thing you do is, you ask, well, how are you? How are you doing? You ask about their welfare. But Prithu Maharaj is saying, I don't need to ask about your welfare. You are always absorbed in spiritual bliss. And the mental concoctions of the auspicious and inauspicious does not exist in you. So this is a famous verse Prabhupada is quoting from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Dvaite Badra Gyana Sabha Mano Dharma E Bala E Manda E Sabha Brahma. The auspicious and the inauspicious are both false. They are mental concoctions. And so we'll find this verse quoted in many places by Srila Prabhupada, which for an ordinary person may be difficult to understand. So we'll try to understand how is it that both good and bad are both false, they are illusion. The example Prabhupada gives in the purport, and he gives other places when he quotes this verse, is that of a dream, material life being a dream. So how is it that we are dreaming here? We feel like we are awake, we feel like there's so much reality here. But we are dreaming in the sense that we are living everything within the mind. Material existence is all perceived, lived, experienced, orchestrated within the mind. When we are sleeping, in the bed at night, we experience so many things. We go into the night dream. And then when we wake up, we shift to the daydream. Both of them are happening within the mind, and actually both of them are temporary. And we forget them. So when I awake, I forget my night dream. And when I am sleeping, I forget my daytime dream. And then when we leave this body at the end of life, we forget the daydream altogether. So we change the daydream into another dream. So death at the end of the body is like sleeping and waking up in a new body. So His Holiness David Maharaj, my spiritual master, he gives this example that when you go to bed at night, do you ever think, I may wake up in a different body. I may not wake up in the same situation. We never think like that. We just take it for granted that I'm going to sleep and I'll wake up and it'll be the same situation. But actually death is that, changing the body after a long, restful night's sleep. And so when we are dreaming at night, the dream is changing all the time. Sometimes we may be flying in the sky. Sometimes we may be swimming in the ocean, walking in the land. And they're changing instantaneously from one second to the next. You're changing bodies in your dream. We have experiences of this. And then when we leave the body also, we change. One life I'm swimming as a fish. One life I'm walking on the land. One life I'm flying in the sky. One life I'm on this planet, that planet. One life I'm a king. One life I'm a poor person. So in this way, they are all changing. So these three characteristics are indicative of a dream. We forget it. It's living in them. It's existing, experienced within the mind, and is always changing. So in this way, we can understand that material life is lived as a dream. Now, in many other instances where Prabhupada quotes this verse from the Anchalila, he describes that good and bad are both bad, auspicious and inauspicious. They're both in the same category of inauspiciousness. And this is understood because no matter what position we are in materially, whether we are rich or poor, living here or there, beautiful or not so beautiful, educated or not, every position that we have will always be accompanied with four things: birth, death, old age, and disease. So the richest person in the world is an old man. He's not an ever youthful, beautiful personality. He is diminishing in his strength, in his beauty, in his memory, everything. So in this way, he is just like any other person. So Prabhupada also, in many places, he gives the example of wet stool and dry stool. That they are both stool. If one tries to distinguish, oh no, dry stool is better than wet stool. This is foolish. Why? Because stool, no matter whether dry or wet, it has the same characteristics. Generally, material life comes with the same characteristics, whether auspicious or inauspicious seemingly to material vision. It's always inauspicious. So the devotee, they see everything equally. The only thing that they favor, the only auspicious situation is actually devotional service. So Prabhupada sometimes he also like to tell the story of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was plundering so many cities. He was traveling this way, that way, and killing and or conquering many different regions. So he came to the east and he found one man who was a thief. He was stealing. So Alexander the Great, he arrested him and he was going to punish him. So this thief, before he was being punished, he told Alexander, I'm stealing some trinkets from the shop, but you're going around and you're stealing people's lands. So you are a big thief and I am a small thief. We're both thieves. We are actually in the same business. So Alexander, being honest to some degree, he said, actually, yeah, you're right. And he let him go. So Prabhupada really liked telling this story to exemplify how everyone is a criminal in this material world. And everyone is shackled here. Everyone is living in the same way, whether we have gold handcuffs or tin handcuffs. Ultimately, we're all being bound here in the material world. So the real auspicious situation is becoming a devotee. There's a beautiful verse in the Chaitanya Bhagavat which says that if one is a devotee, everything is well. But without devotion, even the position of a king is inauspicious. There are verses in Bhagavatam which describe this. Dharmasunistita pumsan vishvaksenu suya nutpadayad yadiratim shama eva hikevalam. That all the occupation and duties a man performs, if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they should be understood to be a useless waste of time. So as Srila Prabhupada once said, or he quotes in the Bhagavad Gita, what profiteth a man if he gains the whole world but suffers the loss of his eternal soul? So as devotees, to embody this realization is very important. Actually, the more we make progress, the more that we see, no matter what a person's material situation is, if they are not a devotee, they have nothing of value. If we see a materialistic person who is wealthy, beautiful, educated, and we think, oh, this person is enjoying, they have a very good position, this is a sign of a lack of realization and a lack of advancement in Krishna consciousness. So the Bhagavad Gita says, Samrittatvaya kalpate, that when one is free from the dualities of happiness and distress, then one is fit for eternal life. So if we take to devotional service, there's never any loss. But if we do everything materially properly, as Narada Muni says, Taktvasvadharmam charanam Vajannapalko tatpatato yadi yatra kova badram abuddha musyakim kovarta apto bhajatam shatarmatha. That if you do everything materially perfect, but you don't take to devotional service, you have gained nothing. But if you give up everything material, all your obligations, all your progress in material life, and you focus on devotional service, still, even if you are not successful completely, if you give it up after some time, still there is no loss for you. So this is very important. Sanatana Goswami, he was full of wonderful qualities. We know he was a minister, he was very wealthy. At the time of Mahaprabhu's time, Sanatan and Rupa, the Birkas and Zakar Malik, they were equivalent to billionaires. Sanatana Goswami, he was basically like the king, because the Nawab, his business was just plundering everywhere. He didn't do anything practical other than go around and fight. So Sanatana Goswami, he was in charge of taking care of all the managerial responsibilities. He knew so many languages, Bengali, Hindi, Sanskrit, Arabic. So when he met Mahaprabhu, he said, everyone thinks I'm very advanced. They say I'm very learned. But ke ami ke amoy, jare tapatroy. I don't know who I am, and I don't know why I'm suffering. So he understood that, yes, everything materially is going well for me, but I don't have. What profiteth a man if he gains the whole world but suffers the loss of his eternal soul? And so Mahaprabhu, he taught that a devotee is the real wealthy person. Why? Because he has Krishna Prema Dana, the wealth of love of God. Mahaprabhu had a beautiful devotee named Kolavesh Sridhar. Many of us know this pastime. Kolavesh Sridhar was actually one of the 12 cowherd boys of Raj Kusumasava. And as a young boy in Nimai, in Navadvip, he would go visit Kolavesh. Kolavesh was living in a house that was broken down. The roof was falling apart. He had raggedy cloth. He would drink from an iron pot. He had nothing. But he had some banana trees in his garden that he would use for maintaining himself. He would sell banana flowers. He would sell bananas, the bark of the tree also he would sell. And he had a very fair price for his products. He was known to be very honest. But Nimai Pandit would go to him and he would say, please give me some of these products that you have. What is the price? Kolovich would quote the price. Nimai would say, I'm only giving you half of it. So Kolovich would say, no, my price is very fair. Everyone knows. Nimai would argue with him. Finally, Nimai would leave half of the price of the goods. And he would grab the bananas or whatever he wanted to take, and he would try to run away. Then Kolovich would tussle with Nimai, and this would go on for about an hour every day. And after tussling for like this for a little while, then Kolovich would let Nimai go. Why? Because he was actually very satisfied and pleased just by seeing the beautiful form of Lord Chaitanya. So although he seemed to be angry, he seemed to be arguing with Nimai, actually he was relishing extraordinary happiness by these interactions. And we can just think, to be interacting with Mahaprabhu like that, how fortunate a personality we would be. Although externally he has nothing, he has the greatest opportunity to interact with Lord Chaitanya in this beautiful, loving exchange. So Nimai went to him once and he said, Kolovich, you're worshipping Vishnu. His wife is Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. So you have nothing, although you're worshipping the husband of the goddess of fortune. But all these worshippers of Durga, they are so rich and wealthy. Why is that? And Kolovich, he told Nimai that a bird making its home in a nest is spending its day in the same way as a king with royal opulences who's enjoying his palace. So Kolovich Sridhar had this equal vision. He didn't distinguish the bird is less happy than the king. He was fit for eternal life. And Nimai, when he heard this, he said, I can understand. You are the most wealthy person in this world. So this pastime is very beautiful. Kolovich Sridhar being very poor, yet actually the wealthiest person there is. Later on, there's many pastimes of Kolovich where Lord Chaitanya, he drank from Kolovich Sridhar's iron water pot. He would also, Kolovich would visit Jagannath Puri with all the devotees to go see Lord Chaitanya after he had taken sannyas. And so in this way, what is the greatest wealth is devotional service. There's the beautiful pastime also Prabhupada quotes in the Bhagavatam of Sanatana Goswami, who there was a devotee of Lord Shiva. He pleased Shiva very much. Shiva asked him, please take a benediction. So, no, he asked, after pleasing Lord Shiva, Shiva told him, you go to Sanatana Goswami, ask him what is the greatest thing he has, he'll give you that. That'll be the benediction. So he went to Sanatana Goswami. He said, Shiva sent me here to get the greatest thing that you have. Sanatana Goswami said, oh, over there in the rubbish, there's a touchstone. You can have it. So the guy was very happy. He said, oh, great, have a touchstone. So he took it and he left very happy. But then he thought, if this is the greatest thing Sanatana gave me, Mahadev told me, get the greatest thing Sanatana has, but he is keeping this in the rubbish. So he probably has something greater than this touchstone. So he went back. He said, Sanatana, you were keeping this in the rubbish, so you must have something greater. So Sanatana told him, okay, you take this touchstone, you throw it in the water, then you come back to me, I will give you the greatest thing. And he did that. How many of us would do that? If I had a touchstone, I can't say I would be giving it up. And he came back and Sanatana initiated him. He told him this Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the greatest thing. So in this way, we can understand how fortunate our position is. We have an extraordinary position within this material world. We have achieved real auspiciousness. And we have achieved real awake life. So for a devotee, whether auspicious or inauspicious, everything is auspicious. For a materialist, whether inauspicious or auspicious, everything is inauspicious. Similarly, for a devotee, whether they are sleeping or whether they are awake, actually they are awake. Why? They are awake to their eternal constitutional position. When we wake up from the nighttime, we think, I'm living in this body, and this is this existence in my awake life is the more substantial. It lasts longer. So this is the reality. But actually, it's not the reality. It's a dream. What is the real reality that lasts forever, that's eternal, is never destroyed, never changes, and is lived in, not just within the mind, but within the existence of the soul? That is our original position as servants of the Lord. So as devotees, actually, everything becomes significant. We become awake. And so even in dreaming, you can say, we are experiencing Krishna. Of course, in the beginning stages, we don't take our dreams very seriously. Like Prabhupada, one person approached him. He said, "Oh, Prabhupada, one devotee. He said, Prabhupada, I dreamt of Mahavishnu." Prabhupada said, "Oh, this is very nice. We want to remember the Lord whether we're awake or asleep." But another time, a person approached Prabhupada, a devotee, and said, "Prabhupada, I dreamt of Krishna." And Prabhupada said, "Do not be too much dreamy. Follow the rules and regulations while you're awake. Chant the Hare Krishna mantra, read my books. And this will be the real gain that you'll have." Just like one time a person asked Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, how can I chant Hare Krishna in my sleep?" And Prabhupada said, "First chant while you're awake." So we perform everything devotional service while in our awake life, and then gradually even our dream state becomes Krishna-ized. There's many devotees who dream of the Supreme Lord. His Holiness Vrndavana Maharaj tells this instance where he was walking around in Mayapur, very blissful, absorbed in Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva's presence. And Shiva Maharaj saw him and he said, "You look too happy. You should be in the GBC." So he thought nothing about it. But then some nights later, in his dream, he saw Prabhupada approach him. And Maharaj used to be part of the editing devotees of the BBT in Prabhupada's time. So the last section that they got from Prabhupada, obviously, was the first section of the 10th canto, first part of the 10th canto, and there was no more Prabhupada purports after that. So Prabhupada approached Maharaj in a dream, and he had what looked in his hand to be a new volume of the 10th canto, new purports from Srila Prabhupada. So he approached Vrndavana Maharaj and he was about to give him the book. And then Prabhupada put the book behind his back and he pointed and he said, "GBC." So Maharaj understood, yes, this is an instruction Prabhupada wants me to follow. And therefore he took it seriously. Of course, Prabhupada himself, his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, would come to him in a dream numerous times, as we know, instructing him to take sannyas, and Prabhupada followed that in due course of time. There's many other instances. Recently, I was reflecting on this pastime found in the Chaitanya Bhagavat of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he was a great devotee. Of course, as we know, he was also very opulent. But he would visit Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, and he initiated Gadadhar Pandit. So Gadadhar, once he apparently forgot his second initiation mantra. So he tried to take the initiation mantra from Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu told him, "No, you're already initiated. You have to wait for Pundarik Vidyanidhi, get the mantra from him again. Do not take a different initiated." So he said, "Pundarik Vidyanidhi will be here soon. You take initiation from him again." So Vidyanidhi arrived in Jagannath Puri, initiated Gadadhar again. Then Gadadhar, Pundarik, Mahaprabhu, and all the devotees, they went to the temple of Jagannath. And they observed a festival called Odana Shashti. This is a festival that begins in the beginning of winter. It marks the day from which Jagannath is dressed in winter cloth. And the cloth that Jagannath is dressed in is starched. So generally, the Shastra says that a starched dress, like say sometimes when we get a new dhoti, Montagues when they get a sari, it's like real crisp, you know? So then some devotees, they wear it and you can notice this fresh dhoti because it doesn't fold properly. It's like super crispy. So actually you're supposed to wash it. The Shastra says that starched cloth is impure. You're supposed to wash it and then you wear it. So Lord Jagannath during this festival is dressed in starched cloth, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi saw this, and there's a doubt arise in his mind. So after they observed the festival with the kirtan and celebration very nicely, all the devotees were leaving. Saurabh Damodar and Pundarik Vidyanidhi were very good friends. So when they were leaving the temple together, Vidyanidhi started to speak to Saurabh Damodar, and he said, I see that they're dressing Jagannath in this starched cloth. Why are they doing this? This is against the scriptures. This is not right. Why are the servants doing this? Saurabh Damodar, he said, well, Jagannath is all omniscient. So if he didn't want this to happen, it wouldn't be taking place. So do not concern yourself so much, whether it's right or wrong. Just accept that this is the will of the Lord, and the Lord wants to swear. Vidyanidhi didn't accept this very much. It seemed that he criticized the servants of Jagannath. So then at night, he went home, went to sleep, and in his dream, Jagannath and Baladev appeared, and they were slapping him. Jagannath was slapping one cheek, and Baladev was slapping him in the other cheek repeatedly. And they slapped him like this for a considerable amount of the night. Jagannath was saying that, I have created these rules that you think are being broken. So you should not think that something wrong is happening here. I create the rules and regulations. So if I so like, I can break them. Vidyanidhi in his dream, he fell at the lotus feet of Jagannath. He begged to be excused. And he was very pleased to be corrected like this by the Lord in his dream. And when he woke up, his cheeks were swollen, puffed swollen. So the dream, you can say, because it's manifesting externally in his awake body, is not really a dream, it's a reality. Both in his dream and in his awake state, he is living, serving, experiencing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So his cheeks were swollen, puffed, and he thought, I cannot go out like this. So the next day, Saurabh Damodar came to see him, and he said, why are you still inside? It's getting quite late. How come you still haven't come out? And Vidyanidhi said, I cannot come out. And he took him by the hand and he told him the whole story. And he told him, I will not come out until my swollen cheeks have reduced. I cannot let the devotees see me like this. And they both were very happy. Saurabh Damodar, he was very pleased that his intimate friend, such a great devotee of the Lord. He said, this has never happened before. The Supreme Lord has corrected his devotee in a dream like this. So the point is, the devotee is living in a real auspicious life, in a real awake life. There's so many actually instances of devotees and their dreams. You may have your own experiences of dreaming of the Supreme Lord, of spiritual master. Sukhi Mahiti, who was one of the 3.5 confidential devotees of the Lord, he dreamt of Jagannath as well. Mahaprabhu was taking darshan of Jagannath, and he would enter the body of Jagannath, and then he would come out again and turn around and take darshan of Jagannath and repeatedly enter and exit the body of Jagannath. This is Sukhi Mahiti's vision of his dream. There is the famous pastime of Madhavendra Puri, who saw Gopal in his dream on 3 different occasions. And so many, Mahaprabhu himself, when he was caught by the fishermen in the net, he was dreaming of intimate pastimes of the Supreme Lord, water sports with the gopis, and interactions with Shri Radha and Krishna. So, to conclude, Prithu Maharaj is happy that the Kumaras have come. He understands that they are the real auspicious personalities. And he also wants to become like them. So how does he do that? How does he get the benefit of their association? By inquiring from them. Generally, one has to travel to so many places of pilgrimage, has to go out and seek association with a devotee. But the devotees know that not everybody does that. Not everybody goes to the temple. Not everybody goes to the holy place. So the devotees go door to door. And in the guise of begging, they go to give, as we said. And so Prithu Maharaj is waiting to be the recipient of transcendental knowledge. So for the rest of this chapter, we'll hear beautiful instructions the Kumaras give. And the more that we follow these instructions, apply them in our life, the more that we become awake devotional service is the gradual process of awakening from the dream, this illusory existence that we have, all these upadis, sarvapadi vinir muktam, I forget the other section of the verse, but all these upadis, these designations, thinking I am American, I am Indian, I am Canadian, I am African, I am a woman, I am a man, I am a king, I am poor, I am beautiful, I am rich. All these are false designations, just as we have designations in our dream, we have designations in our awake life. So when we get free from these designations by following the instructions of the Kumaras, Mahajana Yena Gatasa Panta, then that begins our real auspicious life. So thank you again for allowing me to speak for my purification and to be in the presence of all the devotees. If anyone has any comments or any question, I can try to answer.
Hare Krishna. Vrndavana Madhurya. Such a wonderful class, explaining with so many examples of inauspiciousness and auspiciousness. That struck me about this Alexander the Great and the thief. Such a nice example. We are all thief, whether you are a small thief or a big thief, but thief is thief. So that example shows nothing is auspicious and nothing is inauspicious in the service of the Lord, and for a devotee, everything is same. But we, material people, make a difference, auspiciousness and inauspiciousness, because of our activity. Since we get attached to the devotional service or in Krishna consciousness, this matter doesn't bother us, because all the activities for the Lord is an auspicious activities. And that is the message how Prithu Maharaj is giving us. So for a devotee, following the instruction of his spiritual master, connecting the devotees with regular association, reading Prabhupada's books, is in everything auspicious. There is nothing a word inauspiciousness. So when devotee visits door to door, great devotees, so it is a sign of auspiciousness, offering to others so that they can take advantage of the auspiciousness from them. So this is the mercy, how these great souls are offering to people in general. So that's the message that Prithu Maharaj wanted to give through 4 Kumaras. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji, for attentively listening and giving me some encouragement.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for a very nice class, and particularly bringing out that all of us are really dreaming without knowing our real identity. Till we know that, till we know that we are in illusion and thinking I am Indian, I am American, I am New Zealander, I am Kiwi, or I am an Australian. All these things, these are all dreaming, and these are not our real identity. And without knowing the real identity, and we are trying to find out what is good and what is bad, auspiciousness, and that is why in Chaitanya Charitamrita it is very nicely told that Prabhupada has given this reference that Doite Bhadra Bhadra Shab Manodharma Ei Bhalo Ei Mondo Ei Shab. For person who is in illusion, for him this is good, this is bad. But unless we associate with the Lord, everything is inauspicious. We have to understand that. And that understanding comes when we get rid of that illusion. And that is because all of us are really in a dreaming stage without understanding that we are dreaming. But our we can awake only when we realize our real identity. And that is what you have nicely pointed out, your example, various examples while you have told the Prabhupada. And when we understand that, we can understand what is good and what is bad only after that. Just as in the beginning you have nicely told that when a sannyasi goes to a householder, if he is awakened, he can understand that the sannyasi has come to us to give something. But otherwise, for a material thing, he thinks that he has come for begging. So this is the difference. This is the awakeness. It means we understand that he has come to give us something. And dreaming is thinking that he has come to ask for help and we are going to help him. So this is the difference. Very nicely pointed out. Thank you, Prabhuji, for your very nice class.
Thank you.
And
Prabhu.
hope you will come again.
Thank you.
Help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Shivam has a question. Oh, yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, you have a very nice class and you focused nicely with the auspiciousness and inauspiciousness. And also, I am happy to hear that all devotees, whatever they are doing, that auspiciousness. In this case, I remember that when Rajkot temple is built, that time is, I think, Amavasya and not means good Tithi was there, but His Holiness, that Mahavishnu Goswami, they told, oh, you write down in paper, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and put it in that place, means when they are putting the what called Bhumi Pujan. So, yeah, you know, in this way, and you are giving the example, so remembering all these things. As a devotee, whatever they do in dream and in the act time, all is auspiciousness. Thank you, Prabhu. And you are very focused with the 2 points, the difference between the auspicious and inauspiciousness with your examples. Thank you. And we would like to hear you open. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Shivam, did you have a question?
Hare Krishna. Yes, I did. Yeah, I want to say thanks for the class. Thanks for coming here to benedict everybody. And we're glad all of us, I think 4 of us here at the ashram are listening in as well. But my question was that I think you were talking about illusion. And I just find in my journey in bhakti, like I'm reading, chanting, hearing, and sometimes it can feel like no matter how hard I'm trying, my intelligence knows that I'm in illusion, but everywhere I look, I'm still seeing illusion. So how do we remain equipoised and sort of keep our determination in these circumstances?
It's good that we notice that we are in an illusion. Sometimes you may have an experience of being in a dream, like you're sleeping and you're dreaming, and you understand, I'm actually dreaming. Have you ever had that experience?
Yeah.
You're in the dream. I've had it happen so many times, and it may be good or maybe bad, but then I realize while I'm dreaming, oh, this is actually a dream. I'm going to wake up from it. So similarly, in the same way, when we get the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, when we chant the holy names of the Lord, when we get direct pratyaksha experience of the Supreme Lord and who we are, then even while we're awake, we know that I am dreaming. We know this body is actually not me. Everything here is temporary. We come and we go to so many different situations. And so we're kind of like waiting to get out of the dream altogether. Of course, all the activities that we perform in Krishna consciousness, they are very significant. So we take them all seriously because devotional service is the same, whether here or whether in the spiritual world. So knowing the problem is half the battle. And that's why also we have to hear every day, we have to chant every day, associate with devotees every day, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Because as soon as we stop doing that, then the illusory energy begins to overtake us once again. Again, we fall back into the dream and we think, oh, this is reality. This is very substantial. So again, the problem is that because the awakened dream is more consistent, I wake up and I go back to the same activities I was doing the day before, we take that to be a reality because it's a bit more consistent than the nighttime dream, which is always different from night to night. But when we give up this body, we're going to change this dream again. So the duration is very small, and it's not actually something to really take as a very substantial situation. So yeah, I think the fact that you're noticing that you are an illusion is very good.
Very well. Thanks, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question as well, Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Sorry to jump in. Is it okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much for your class, and I really appreciated you quoting shlokas from various parts of the Shastra. Thank you. I just wanted to share a story and get your lens on it. Recently, our good friend Bhakta Max Prabhu, he moved the house of a very successful materialist. He was a famous architect in Auckland, and he'd had such marvelous karma. He had created so many incredible houses. He had done so much travel. He had so many powerful connections. But Max Prabhu's entry into this person's life was after he had left his body, and his wife was left with all these material possessions, famous pieces of art, and she was so burdened and heavy. And it seemed like all the achievements of his life had evaporated into nothing, and that in fact he had no good fortune, because his next life surely was looking like a not very ideal situation. And I was just kind of struck, and this is what I wanted to get your perspective on, that during his whole life he was so bewildered by his previous pious deeds, right? He had such good karma, yet he didn't meet the devotees. How is it that, like, it seems like he's very unfortunate, and it's almost unfair that his karma was so good that he didn't have the chance to really seek or inquire into devotional service. Could you speak to this?
Yeah, so one has to be, it's Bhaktin Mukhi Sukriti. So there's a certain kind of Sukriti that will give you association of devotees and lead you to devotional service. And there's other kinds of Sukriti credits that will just give you a materially pleasing situation. So the real credit that we want is that which is connected to Krishna's service. So it is an unfortunate situation that this person had everything nice materially, but never got to meet a devotee. So to me, it just speaks of the fact that everything material, no matter how great it is, it's just so temporary, it's so insignificant. He lost it all with nothing to show for it. As Prabhupada would often meet very influential persons, and he would say, oh, okay, you're a very famous musician with so much money, but what are you going to be in your next life? Or he met the grandson of Henry Ford, and he said, oh, Henry Ford, where is he now? He didn't put any emphasis on your beautiful situation that you had. He just put emphasis on how temporary it is, and now it's all vanished. So it's fortunate for us that we're able to see that, not to be able to just be bewildered, because many would see his situation, they will think, oh, he had such a good life. He was an architect, he had so many accomplishments, he had so much wealth, he even left it for his wife, descendants that also get to enjoy a little bit. So many may think, oh, he had such a successful life, but for a devotee, we see actually it's a disaster of a life. So this is our mission, is to try to help everyone, no matter who they are. We see everyone as poverty-stricken. Ideally, that's what we want to see. Of course, if somebody has wealth, we try to engage that. If somebody doesn't have any wealth, we try to engage them in a different way. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but...
Yes, Prabhu, thank you so much. That's a nice perspective. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Anything else, or should we end here?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, it appears there is no other questions. So we can
Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Bhaktivinoda.
Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa
Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. His Grace Vrndavana Madhurya Prabhu Ki Jai. All glories, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful class, Prabhu.